Before we move on, though, let's talk a little bit about Bonds, because before Barry was doing his thing in San Francisco, it was his dad, Bobby, who was kind of a lesser version of Barry, but that's nothing to be ashamed about.
Well,
Bobby,
he had the power and the speed. I think the year before he had 39 homers and 43 steals.
yeah.
So he was, and I think that first year, that 74 season, he only had 21, but he still had a ton of steals. So he was that power speed combination that his son would also become.
Yeah, I was wondering when I saw he was 39 homers, 43 steals, like if he knew, like he'd be the first guy ever to get 40-40. And in the article, it says he did, and he slumped badly in September trying to get the 40th home run. But Sparky Anderson said he was the best player in America. Sal Bando of the A's says he's the most dynamic hitter that he'd ever seen. He also won a Gold Glove, so he really could do it all. But the weird thing, I always found this so strange about Bonds, is he plays with the Giants from I want to say 67 to 75. And then he's traded. And then the last 7 years of his career, where he had still some good seasons, but he played with 7 teams the last 7 years. So he stays at home for those first 7, and then he's kind of a vagabond after that, all over the place.
Well, I know when he was with the Angels, he had 37, 115, and 77. So you're thinking, as an Angel fan, okay, we got this guy locked up. That's great. Then they sent him to the White Sox for a series of a bunch of young guys. And so for me, as a guy that, was just following a team, I was stunned. I mean, he really, when he came to the plate in that year, you knew something great was going to happen. And then they sent him packing, and I never understood why. I just thought, man, this guy was everything that they needed.
But his glory days were in San Francisco. So Barry ended up leaving the Pirates and going to the Giants. It was kind of like following in his father's footsteps in a sense.
And his godfather was Mays, so that helped him too.
Right. Yeah.
If only he'd taken on his father's attitude. That would have been nice.
If you were drafting a fantasy baseball team back in 1974, coming off pretty much the 73 stats, he would have been the Ronald Acuna of that time. I think.
Yeah.
Mark, do you think he would have been the top player taken in that draft?
Maybe there were a lot of good players. Mike Schmidt was an unbelievable third baseman.
Yeah.
And obviously Joe Morgan. So, possibly, but I mean, there were a lot of options there.
Would Johnny Bench have
and
been
the
an
pitchers?
Jimmy Wynn. And then,
pitching. The pitching was up there too.
Yeah, Nolan Ryan.
All right, well, let's do that. Let's take a look at that. Mark, you have the first pick in the 74 recreated Major League Draft. Who are you taking?
Okay, now I do get a second pick, right?
Yep.
Okay, so I'll take Schmidt with my first pick at third base.
Michael Jack, Hall of Famer. All right, Gary, who would you take?
Wow. I take Nolan Ryan.
Well, he stole. We're not even playing, and you took the guy.
Sorry, man. You know what? And my gut said take Bonds, but my head was like, I love watching Nolan Ryan, and he's right here.
He's 27 years old. He's coming off a season where he's 21-16, a 2.87 ERA, like we mentioned, 383 strikeouts. I think he pretty much slumped pretty horribly compared to those numbers in 1974.
What, the only strikeout 290 guys?
No, I think it was more like, what was it? In 74, it was 367. So he had 16 fewer strikeouts. So, and his ERA went from 2.87 to 2.89. I don't know, man. I think it's a stretch.
Hey, I'm looking at Schmidt's stats. Hey, I had a good year in 74. 282, 36 homers, 116 RBIs, 23 steals. I like my first pick.
Yeah.
I got a story about Schmidt.
Third baseman. Wow. All right, Billy, you're up. Who you got?
I'm going with Willie Stargell.
Okay.
Home runs, RBI average.
I think
and he plays a lot of games
that year, right?
He
Yep.
led in homers and RBIs, I want to
Yes,
say.
he did.
Yeah.
Or in 73 he did. I don't know what
Yeah.
he did in 74.
Yeah, many people think that he should have won the most valuable player in 73. And if you look at analytics from today's, the way they value players now, they're like laughing because I think Pete Rose hit like 6 home runs that year. He did hit 338, but
It wasn't all stats back then.
Stargell's numbers were much better than Rose's, according to the analytics people.
Okay, Twigs, you got the
All
fourth
right,
pick.
that leaves me. I didn't think he'd be there, but I'm going to take Joe Morgan.
It's a good
30
one.
years old, 290 batting average, 406 on base percentage. He hits 26 home runs, steals 67 bases. He really could do it all. You forget, because Joe was such a longtime broadcaster for us, for all those years.
Yeah.
Just forget what a dynamic hitter he was, man.
With that stinking arm
Right?
thing he used
And
to
he
do.
qualifies at a position, second base. That's,
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we'll go back and Nami, you're up again.
Snake draft, man.
So-
You
so,
gotta take the first one there, Twigs.
All right. Well, I'll tell
Yeah,
you
it'll be him, yeah.
that I'm an A's guy, so it's tough to pass on Reggie Jackson, right?
Right.
But I'm gonna go with 23-year-old. How about this for 23-year-old? 320 batting average, 25 home runs, 56 steals. Who am I talking about?
Ralph Garr. Maybe not.
Cesar Cedeno.
Oh, I love
wow.
Cesar Cedeno.
Wow.
But I don't know if he never really lived up to the, he was a very good player for a long time.
Yeah.
But they thought at age 23 when he was doing that he would continue. So
He was balanced though. He did it all there.
he could do it all.
And you know what else? He always did it to the Dodgers. It was one of literally my oldest best friend is an Astros fan since the moment they came into being, and everything was number 28, Cesar Cedeno. Yeah, his lucky number was 28. Everything. And wouldn't it be funny if I'm remembering it wrong and he wasn't number 28?
Well, he had a very strange off season that year too, where he was, I want to say, in Venezuela, I think so, and he was, like I said, at the time he's 22. He's with a 19-year-old girl. They're partying. He's got a gun. Who doesn't like to just get drunk and play around with a gun? But the gun discharges and the girl is killed. He's brought up on charges. He eventually was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter, and I think he served like 20 days in jail and had a small fine. But that kind of tarnished him almost for the rest of his career. There was always kind of this like, wonder if he meant to do that. So, but anyway, I don't care. I don't need character. I need a guy who runs. So, Bill, you're up.
Well, I looked over a few people. I first looked at Davey Johnson, because I liked what he did at second base. Then I liked Jim Palmer, because I like the fact he starts. He pitches a lot of innings. But then I decided to go with the position that sometimes it's hard to get. And I went with Johnny Bench.
Nice.
That's catcher.
Yeah, you look at his stats. Yeah, 73, 25, 104, then comes back in 74, 33, leads the league in 129 RBI. So I thought, Johnny Bench, 280.
Think of that, 129 RBIs as a catcher. That's just amazing. That's Mike Piazza like.
And you get to watch them on the baseball bunch or whatever. So
yes, that's right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
It's me.
It's you. All right.
I'm adding Tom Seaver to Nolan Ryan.
That's good too. Yeah.
Trying to run away with it. Pitch to win.
Dominant pitching staff.
Yeah, in 73, Seaver's 19-10 with a 2.08 ERA. But like the Roto Chicks rotisserie team of late, in 74, Seaver only wins 11 games. So you picked the 1 year, Gary, in which he was below average. Good job.
I suck.
Wow.
I didn't cheat and look ahead to what they did in 74.
Mark,
I
who
did.
you going
Well,
with?
I want balance. I got the third base hitter and Schmidt. I'm going to go pitching, and I'm going to go with one of my favorite pitchers, Louis Tiant. Just
Mm.
love the guy. Loved his wind up. Loved the way
Yeah, I
he
did
didn't get you
too.
a ton of
I did too.
strikeouts, but he won. He wins over 20 games every year,
He was
and
fun.
he does everything else. So, and I just love his wind up. That is just no one else pitched like that. Where he's facing the center field fence before he winds his body back to home plate to throw a pitch.
So think of this. These are some of the guys that in the top 8 didn't go and are still out there. Bill, you mentioned Davey Johnson. Now, Davey Johnson was a average baseball player his entire career. I think coming into 1973, his career high in home runs was 18. He had another year where he had 15. But out of nowhere in 73, he hits 43 home runs. So that someone picked him high would have had this been around, and they would have been pissed off at him for the rest of their lives because he was not that good in 74. But Reggie Jackson's out there.
But also, Scott, either was Palmer. Palmer won 7 games in 74. Yeah, then he won 20 in a row 4 times.
I know. Go figure. And I looked at that. He had a little bit of an injury, but not.
What did Reggie do in 74?
We mentioned that Ron Bryant guy. He goes 24 and 12. He's 27. The next year he goes 3 and 15. So in 74, if you picked him, you were not pleased. In 75, he goes 0 and 1, and he's out of baseball. Yeah. You still have, he's 23 years old, 20 and 17, a 2.52 ERA, and 258 strikeouts. One of Chris Berman's all-time greats, Bert B. Home Blyleven.
Yeah, I loved him.
Uncle Charlie,
great
that curveball.
Yeah.
How good was a guy like Don Gullett that year? Was he? I'm not looking at his stats. Another one of my favorite players growing up.
It seemed to me like the Reds always had, a bunch of 14-game winners.
Yeah.
And I could be wrong, but with like Jack, what was it?
Billingham
and that
Gary Nolan.
Gullett was good. Gullett never lost. That was the thing. I'm looking now in 74. He goes 17 and 11 with a 3.04 ERA. The next year he's 15 and 4. Then 11 and 3, then 14 and 4. He just never lost games. It was amazing. So a very, very solid pitcher. Had a short career, only pitched from 70 to 78. It makes you wonder, Gary, did a lot of these guys, have arm injuries that back then we were like, oh, he just has a dead arm now. But they basically, had no ligaments left in their arms.
In the immortal words of my pal Don Drysdale, we didn't know we had rotator cuffs, so we just kept pitching.
Right?
Wow.
I mean, Sandy Koufax wins the pitching triple crown. And what year was that, guys? What was his last year? 67, 68?
66. He retired when he was like 30 or 31.
And he had to have had something, right?
Yeah, his arm was gone.
Yeah.
And he had his arm was hurting, and back then they didn't have Tommy John surgery or anything, but he was right in the prime of his career. And then he got a job and he would do the Saturday backup game of the week for NBC. But hey, I was looking up Ron Bryant because none of us knew who he was. Really interesting. He only passed away in November of 23, but his nickname was the Bear because the Giants equipment manager named it because he looked like a bear with his chunky build, the way of walking, and his curly hair. And he had a 3-foot teddy bear by his locker room. And the reason he went from 24 and 12 to maybe 3 and 15 was he sustained a gash along the right side of his torso that needed 25 sutures when he tumbled off a body slide and hit the side of a hotel swimming pool and that was right before spring training in '74.
Ah,
Good
So-
he
call,
was,
Mark.
so he was
Now
the
we-
Nick Senzel of his era.
Yes,
yeah.
yes. Break your thumb fielding grounders before a game. That's not injury prone. I don't know what is.
And now we know so much more about Ron Bryant. Who
We
knew?
do.
Right?
The
My
Bear.
golly.
They should
He
name
was-
a TV series after
He
that.
was
But-
6
but
foot
set it in a
190.
Chicago restaurant.
Called the Bear.
Yeah.
I
Not at
gotta
190.
say, I can't believe none of you guys took Vita Blue. Oh,
Forgot about him. That's why.
It just
Oh,
makes me
nice.
sick.
Wasn't Catfish Hunter pretty good in those years too?
Yeah.
Hunter, Holtzman. There's a reason they won 3 World Series in
Yeah.
a row.